Welcome to the Totally Legit podcast. Today I'm joined by Refined Claymore plus 10. We talk about a whole lot of things, including soulslike. What does it mean, and which games should you avoid or play? So, Ben, you happen to be the admin of a certain Facebook page called Refined Claymore plus 10.
Yep, that's me.
You've got, how many likes do you have there now? How many people are watching you?
I'm almost up to 35,000.
Shit, man. I think you might be the highest number of likes of any of the weapon pages so far.
Yes, yeah, I believe so.
You passed up Evil Sun, bro, and gotta say, you're doing pretty damn good compared to the rest of us.
I mean, I put a lot of effort into it. I
You do.
try to post a lot of stuff every day just to keep everybody active and interested in the community. And I like the comment sections are always full of people arguing and debating and
Oh, I know it, man. That's the best thing about running a page. I
yeah.
mean, you do a pretty good job. You share my stuff once in a while. You comment on my shit a lot too. But
Yeah.
it's nice to have this interconnectivity between all the pages. You don't see that with very many groups on Facebook.
That's true. True.
Like,
Like I said, I try to comment on everybody else's weapons pages when I see them pop up in my feed because I was already, I already liked everybody's pages before I even started mine. So it's just kind of cool that I see it pop up and now I can share it to my page and we all get a little bit of exposure over it.
oh yeah, I remember you were kind of in the big wave of people that just started making pages out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see the variety of people that have come from that because, as most people know, we've got our Illuminati feet group chat going on, and how many people are we up to on that anyway? Let's see here.
I don't know, actually.
I think we've hit like a 20 by now. So there's 20 different people with Dark Souls pages of varying quality, all in the same group chat, and there's usually feet being brought up.
Yeah. Yeah, that is definitely yeah.
Oh man, it's a fucked up community, but it's a great one to be a part of, as long as you're not talking about Dark Souls 2, which is the best one.
Well, that's up for debate. But anyways,
But anyway, I didn't ask you on here to talk about Dark Souls 2 and how it definitely is the best Souls game ever. I figured that as someone who's seen a lot of different games, you might have a good opinion on what the term Souls-like means. What is a lot of people throw that word around to varying degrees, but what do you think that the term Souls-like means?
well, to me, it means just, you it's a difficult game that basically any enemy you come across can defeat you, and you should treat every enemy like it could kill you. A lot of it has to deal with dodging, upgrades, uh, deep storyline and lore, and just and one thing that's cool about Dark Souls and other Souls likes is when everything that exists in their universe is connected. Like there's a reason why you have to respawn at the altar or the sanctuary or the bonfire or the lantern, whatever. Like they build that into the lore, even to down to like the Estus, the blood, the whatever you need to drink for health. Like it's built into the lore for a reason. It's not just like, oh, it's a health potion, you drink it and you heal. Like I don't
Yeah.
know. That's
So,
that's that's one.
so you're
Sorry.
saying a lot of it has to do with difficulty on the individual scale as well as thoughtfulness put into the world design. It's not just
Yes.
third person hack and slash you respawn. It's not Cuphead everything is super hard. It's not so much a formula but a philosophy. That's what I'm getting from you here.
Yeah. Because I mean, even games like the new game Blasphemous, it takes a lot of inspiration from the Souls-like, but it also makes itself, stand apart because it's got that Metroidvania to it.
Yeah.
What's another good one? Dead Cells. Dead Cells doesn't even have the stamina or anything, and it's complete roguelike, but it still has that feeling of mystery to the lore and like that difficulty to all the enemies that you come across.
Okay, I feel you on that. I've always taken it to be more of trying to emulate the Dark Souls style with the third person, with the sort of branching pathways and the difficulty of every enemy, like you mentioned there. So
Yeah.
I've always seen it as trying to emulate that Demon Souls and Dark Souls feeling, which a lot of games do pretty well, and a lot of them do really, really well in the areas you're talking about as well. Like I've been blazing through Neo lately and having a blast, and it does a
That's
lot. Yeah, it's a fun game. I mean, we should play sometime, but it does a lot of things right and it does some things wrong. And I feel like, each Souls game has something to bring to the table that maybe Dark Souls and Bloodborne didn't. Like you were talking about Blasphemous. I haven't seen a thing about that yet. But what is it?
it just released this last week. It's a side-scrolling Metroidvania, Souls-like. Uh, it's a platformer. It's really really hard for one thing. Uh, yeah, I haven't raged as hard on a game in a while because it's just so frustrating. Because when you one thing I don't like is when you fall, you don't like pop back up to the thing, you fucking die. So I
Oh,
guess that's typically like a Souls like. I guess if you fall off the edge, you're dead. Uh, and there's just something for me for like side scrollers because I've been playing video games since the early '80s, and it just those were like the games for me back then. I was a big fan of Mario and Sonic and all that back in the day. And I just like the whole side-scrolling platformer, and with the added difficulty and the customization that RPGs give you, it just helps that along, I guess.
all right. So it's taking your current franchise that you love and throwing in a feel of your old school classic stuff that you loved.
Yes.
All right, I can get behind that. What are some other Souls like games that you've played? What can you recommend? What do you recommend staying away from? I mean, we could talk about the Surge for hours upon hours, but I can do that on my own.
Don't get me wrong. I loved the Surge too. That one was really really fun. And I sat down and I beat it, and I had to just continue it until I got the platinum for it because it was just I was so enthralled by the whole idea and the whole concept of like being in your mech suit and it being as difficult as a Dark Souls game. Like the only thing I did not like about it though is the lack of like it was kind of short. It was a
Yeah,
short game.
it was. They tried to do a lot with just a little, and you can even see that with the file size. And I think the sequel's really fixing that.
Yeah, yeah, I hope so. Because the bosses were really cool and they were really different, but it just wish there was more of them.
Yeah, and just looking at the videos they've shown, there's already going to be. They've shown as many bosses in the teasers as there were in the first game and the
Yeah,
DLC.
hell
But
yeah.
yeah, man.
But one that I would probably say to avoid would be Death's Gambit.
That's
I had a lot of sorry.
what is Death's Gambit? I haven't even
Death.
heard of it until now.
Um, it's actually an Adult Swim game.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and it tries to do the whole side-scrolling Souls Metroidvania that games like Salt and Sanctuary and Blasphemous pull off so well. It's lacking in it. You get into it, and about a couple hours in, it just gets boring. And there's just you don't
Oh,
feel for any of the characters. You don't get involved in it too much. It just feels like you're just trying to sludge through the end. I got all the way to the last boss, and I didn't even finish it.
I feel you on that. It sounds like they got a solid gameplay down, but didn't put anything around it to really keep it interesting.
Yeah.
Kind of like you could almost say that about Lords of the Fallen. They've got some interesting stuff there, but they just don't. They didn't really take advantage of that.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
and the game was clunky as hell too.
yeah, it had its charm, and I really wish I could go back and beat it. But it was the start of something good, but itself wasn't very good. Like
Right.
Neo's story, I couldn't care less about because it was portrayed so poorly. Like there was, I'm in England, I escape, and I'm in Japan. There's a guy with a cat in his pocket, and I'm fighting through Japan, and there's all this intrigue and shit going on that just it's so boring. And then you get to the DLC, and oh, and by the way, William as a character is a cardboard box. He's as interesting as Wolf from Sekiro. All right, the dude gets
Yeah.
the dude gets a tiny little bit of character in one of the DLCs, and at the ending, it's like, okay, you know what? Let's just focus on the interesting enemies and drop you tons of weapons.
Yeah. Yeah,
Have
one thing that's what Neo has going for it though is it's got the longevity to it. Like you will put 100+ hours into it just trying to get to the way of the Neo and then do the Abyss, which is 999 levels in itself. It's
oh
just
yeah,
a long ass game.
I love that, and I love the massive amount of drops you get. People complain about that, but it's satisfying to open your inventory and see 100 different things that you're just gonna sell like that. You feel like a rich
Yeah.
motherfucker.
Yeah.
But
Very very Diablo esque.
except it's better than Diablo 3. Fuck that game.
That is true. Diablo 2 was the bomb.
Yeah, I should play that. I haven't yet. But have you tried Remnant from the Ashes?
I have not. My coworker, he plays that all the time, and he's been just trying to get me to play, and I'm just like, I don't know,
It's
I don't know.
it's not from a AAA studio, and you can tell that with the way it's presented. I played a little bit of it on a friend's console, and it's interesting. He says it's like Dark Souls with guns. I don't
Yeah,
quite feel that. It's got the respawning, it's got the third person, but it feels more like a generic shooter RPG that took a couple of hints from Dark Souls. And it plays good. Everything is nice and smooth. The aiming, the sensitivity changes when you scope in, and it feels good. It feels right, and it really emphasizes multiplayer. But it just kind of it's the story from what I played is pretty generic, but they tried to keep it interesting with the enemies and the layout and the availability of stuff.
yeah.
But tell me more about Souls like games you've played, because I've only played a couple. You've got more experience than me.
Well, one of my favorites, I don't know if you could call it Souls-like, but it definitely has the influence, is Hollow Knight.
Hmm.
That game is just so pretty. Like you could tell they put love and effort into the game as they were making it. And,
Oh
and
yeah.
I've like they have some videos on YouTube where it talks about Team Cherry and like how they were involved in these competitions where they had I think it was like 24 hours to make a game and to give it like a story, and they made two of these games in 2 different years, of course. And they combined basically the concept for both of these games, and Hollow Knight was born from that.
Very nice. I believe the term for that sort of competition is a game jam.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, yeah. Where like the
Yeah.
devs get together and do that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really interesting. I thought,
But
but
how does it
it's
play? That's the important part.
um, it's another side-scrolling platformer, but it's more closer to like a Metroidvania than it is Dark Souls. I mean, you've got your dodging elements and you've got your leveling up element, like with your nail. But you also get these things called charms, and you can combine charms to give you special abilities, or they can help you in certain situations. Uh, and you get this is another one where you get to the very end of the game, and then it's like, boom, you're unloaded with all this new content. All of a sudden, you're like, whoa, what the fuck? Because then you go through the Pantheon and fight all these battles, and it gets really difficult.
So it's got a story end, but not so much a gameplay end. That's a good way to go about stories with these, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
And you lose some of the Dark Souls influence when you take a dimension out of it. So these 2D ones, they're not going to feel exactly like Dark Souls, but you can tell they've got that inspiration there.
well, if you've ever played Salt and Sanctuary, that would be the one that I would say is the most Souls-like 2D side scroller, because
Oh,
it has the stamina, it has the far out story, it's got the NPCs that you kind of get involved with. It's got that feeling of hopelessness throughout the game. And you level up your
okay.
stats just like Dark Souls. The weapons and armor scale just like Dark Souls. Um, I recommend Salt and Sanctuary first, usually when I'm recommending Souls-like games,
Now,
because
see,
it was the first that I played. Sorry, say that again?
if someone had told me about the leveling mechanics and how much similarity it bears to Dark Souls, I would have picked it up a while ago. Because all I've heard is, oh, it's like Dark Souls but 2D with salt, and no one really puts that thought into actual words, and it doesn't really sell the game if, oh, it's hard like Dark Souls, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, like, it's not completely as intricate. I just think instead of like 10 stats, you have 5 stats that you level up,
Yeah.
strength, dex, intelligence, endurance, and
Well, I mean, who the fuck even levels faith anyway, right?
well, I actually never have. I've never made a faith build.
And that's why you have almost 35,000 likes.
Probably.
Oh man, it's just amazing how the genre exploded after Dark Souls came out.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
the first one, Demon Souls, was kind of a sleeper, and I feel like if they had had more time and maybe put out a little bit later, it would have hit just as well as Dark Souls 1. If they had had the time they needed, give them another year, let them polish things up more, and it could have been as good.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I actually haven't finished Demon Souls,
I,
but don't tell anybody that.
well, you're putting it out there for the world right now, man. They're gonna come hunting for you.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I haven't loaded on my PS3. I just haven't finished it.
Yeah, I've only played a little bit of it, a few minutes, and it felt all right. But I had no time to play. I gotta get a PS3 of my own to play it. But
Yeah.
that game, man, I need to play it in order to finish my Dark Souls journey, if you know what I mean.
Oh yeah, totally. My first experience with it was when it was they released it for the PlayStation Plus. Shit, like I don't know. This is probably like 9 years ago now, and yeah, it's been a while. And I remember trying to play it, and like those first couple skellies, man, they just brutally murder you, and I was just like, "Fuck this game! I don't even want to play this game anymore."
Oh
Of course,
man,
who could have told me 6 years later I would be completely in love with the style of game?
it's just it's like you have a beautiful wife. You have amazing sex every night, but she has to punch you in the face every 48 hours. And you love her to death, but you know that punch is coming. You're just going to wait and brace for it and take it like a man, or you're going to leave.
Yeah.
It's been such a beautiful journey to go through these games, man. Which one did you start with?
I actually, well, okay, so I bought Dark Souls 3 when it first came out because there was a big buzz about it, and I had a lot of trouble with Udex Gundyr. Like, I had a lot of trouble because I didn't. It was my first attempt at the games, and I just didn't have a concept of it.
Oh yeah,
Well,
that tutorial shows you so little in comparison to the others. It's the harshest start to the easiest game.
yeah, no doubt. But so I let my buddy borrow the game because he wanted to check it out, right? So one day I was over at his house, and he would already cruised along, and I was watching him play. And I was like, fuck this, man. I want my game back. I want to play. And he's like, well, let me finish it. So I was like, all right.
You didn't get it back for like 2 years?
Well, 6 months. But I ended up buying Bloodborne in between that time, right? Because I've been reading about it, and Bloodborne appealed to me because I'm a big fan of H.P. Lovecraft and all, and like that whole setting, that Victorian setting.
Oh,
And
yeah.
something about Bloodborne, it just clicked with me. And like I flew through that game in like a week.
Yeah, it's a little bit simpler of a gameplay style because you don't have to worry about, 8 different kinds of magic and shields and armor weights. You're going to dodge, you're going to stab, you're going to shoot maybe. And they streamlined it to offer a more specialized experience, you could say. And it's really, really good on that. I go back to it constantly.
Yeah, Bloodborne is probably my personal favorite, but of course it was first.
Yeah. But
But
even
you know
then,
that. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, I went to Dark Souls 3 right after that, and like it was just cake. Well, not
yeah,
cake per se, but I understood the mechanics and I could
yeah,
play the game better.
it just clicked for you because Dark Souls 3 carries a lot of Bloodborne influence with it. If you haven't noticed.
Yes, yes.
I mean, enemies are tall and lanky. The humans aren't the same size as you. Very dodge heavy. It's if you played Bloodborne, you're gonna pick up Dark Souls 3 fairly well, and you're proof of that, man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, thanks.
I remember I got started in Dark Souls, and I loved it. Took me forever. I picked up Dark Souls 2 when it came out, and I got a physical release, but my 360 couldn't read it. So I went over to
Oh,
my
that
buddy's
sucks.
house. Oh yeah, it turned out to be the best thing ever. Because I went to my buddy's house to play it. I booted up, and he got hooked. I'm like, well, I can't play it at home. I'll just leave it with you. Dude got hooked. I think he kept that copy, and I got a digital one, and we started playing together eventually. And
Hell yeah.
he's been my Dark Souls guy. We beat Dark Souls 3 the first week it came out. It was awesome. And
Damn.
it was a wonderful experience to get him in on that.
That's
It's
cool.
it's been such a wonderful ride on that. Do you happen to have a Dark Souls friend that you play with a lot like that, or are you a solo flyer?
I do actually. The my buddy that I lent Dark Souls 3 to. Ever since then, we've been playing them together. Like we got. Well, he actually was playing Dark Souls 2 on PlayStation View, and then I got Dark Souls Scholar of the First Night, and I talked him into buying or Scholar of the First Sin.
There you
And
go.
I talked him into buying it, and we were playing that for a while. And then, of course, Dark Souls Remastered came out, and we blazed through that too. Just waiting for the next one to come out, you know?
Yeah, I'm holding my breath on Elden Ring. We'll see how that turns out. But
Yeah. After Sekiro not having multiplayer, they have to have multiplayer in Elden Ring.
yeah. But hey, we've got the Surge 2 coming out soon, and that's at least gotten messages. So
Messages?
you haven't heard about this, dude?
No,
So have you played Overwatch at all?
no, I don't.
All
Yeah, I
right,
have
so
not.
Overwatch, first person, you can unlock these little spray paints that you can place anywhere in the world. Well, the Surge kind of takes that and blends it with the messages where you're not selecting pre-done phrases, you're putting out graffiti to point people towards things. Yeah, I haven't seen it in action, but it sounds like a wonderful system to keep things vague and interesting. Like
Oh wow.
one little teaser I saw, it was three little images, one after the other, a skull and then two people signs to show that there were two enemies around this corner. So it's taking that format of Dark Souls but replacing with hieroglyphics essentially.
Oh, okay. I was under the impression that you could actually like draw your own messages. If it's
No.
predetermined what you could pick from, then that
Yeah.
changes what I was thinking.
Oh, dude, there would be dicks everywhere if you could draw whatever
Exactly
you
what I was
wanted.
thinking.
Item ahead, here's a penis. Boss head, two dicks.
Yep.
No, they had the foresight to keep that from happening. Oh,
I mean,
man.
I'm sure we're gonna get dirty messages out of what they give us, but
Oh yeah, there's going to be
cryptic.
like a bent over person in between two others. People are going to find a way.
yeah.
But at least
Yeah.
we're not going to have tri-finger butthole on every bent over corpse in the world.
And you know what's funny is that never gets old. Like every time I see it, I laugh.
Oh yeah, it's just a running gag. It's transcended meme status. You've got horse butthole, tri-tongue butthole, finger butthole. It's if you put butthole in the message, it's gonna get a like out of someone.
Oh man, that's great.
It's such a wild ride playing these games, man. You get your ass beat in by a fat dude with a hammer one moment, and the next you're laughing at finger butthole.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're just about at the end of our time here, but is there anything going on that you'd like to let people know about? Maybe you're going to start uploading some videos soon. Maybe you got a poll going on or a contest.
I don't actually. I haven't thought of anything recently. I usually do my polls at random. I don't ever plan them out.
All
I'm trying to
right.
think. I don't know. Might start
Nothing.
streaming some Blasphemous.
There you go. Well, shit, man. I'll definitely give a share out of that. Not that anyone who likes my page hasn't seen yours already.
Right.
Well, thank you for joining me for this inaugural episode of the Totally Legit podcast, and I hope
Thank
to
you for
have you on
having me.
again soon.
Yeah, it was fun.